Dudes, so what the hell is up? I just got back from the first public playtest of Killer Instinct, and a lot of folks showed up. There was this line around the entire freaking mall to play the game, and I got to play quite a bit. So let me get started. Sorry for the impromptu-ness of this video. Like, it doesn't look very good. I have some footage from the event, and there were quite a few fighting game guys that were there that I was able to get some impressions from, and the developers were more than willing to talk about stuff. So let's get started. It's like 2:26 in the morning right now before E3. I'm going to try to get this video up before E3 starts so I can get some much better footage and some interviews when the show starts to get a better understanding of the game. But let's talk about Killer Instinct. Let's talk about game feel. So Killer Instinct feels really tight. Like, the game itself feels like as soon as you press a button, as soon as you press a jump, stuff happens really fast. There's not a lot of animations that happen to make these things take place. It kind of reminds me and feels a lot like Street Fighter 4. However, the game really encourages you getting in each other's faces. Now let's talk about how the character animations feel and the character move lists. I was watching the trailer, and I was a little disappointed with the trailer. I was excited because it's Killer Instinct, and it's blowing my mind, and hype and nostalgia and all this stuff, but I was a little disappointed with how, like, Jago looked, and I thought Saberwolf looked cool, but the trailer just, for some reason, felt kind of off to me. You see this game in person, and it's just, holy shit. It's not like Street Fighter Cross Tekken game is fun to play and not really as fun to watch, or, you know, the ways people say that vice versa story. No, dude, you go and you watch this game running at 60 frames a second on a big widescreen TV and you're 10 inches away from the screen practically, or like a couple of feet. Dude, it looks really good. Like, almost gorgeous. And I take nostalgia classes off, and for critical analysis like these. And like I said, Jago, for example, I thought his design wasn't the best. I thought he could have used a little bit more tweaking, but I understand what they're going for, like a much darker Jago. And, but when you see these characters in motion and actually beating each other up, and the ridiculous amount of gore that is flying off of them, and the hit sparks, and the crazy physics engine that happens when characters throw fireballs against each other, it's just like, this is pretty. It's a real pretty game to look at. And when you do stuff like the background moves like crazy, and the background starts falling apart as the stage goes on, a little similar to Injustice, although it happens at very specific moments and kind of not as much at random, which can kind of happen with Injustice. Although I do like that in Injustice quite a bit as well. So let's move on to and talk about the specific mechanics of the game. Killer Instinct follows suit to its previous titles. More notably, the game feels a much better iteration of KI1 than 2, and it feels like a combination of KI1 and Street Fighter 4, and a little bit of like old 2D games. Like, more so, I kind of feel a little bit of Third Strike in there with the character movement. Like, the character animations don't feel very stiff in motion. Dashes are very fast, similar to a lot of characters in Third Strike. I don't know why I was getting that feeling, but I understand why I got this feeling, because when I started talking to the developers, every time I mentioned something in comparison to another fighting game, like, that was on purpose, we love Third Strike. I was like, oh, really? Like, and I was talking about the combo ease and usability, because doing combos in KI3 is a lot more easy than what it was before, but to actually get to the higher damage stuff and the stuff that is way better than 12% and 15%, you know, you get it to like 30, 35, 50% damage combos that take a bunch of meter, and these things take a level of precision and a level of execution that is going to be a lot more difficult than just your button press combos. It's got that jump-in accessibility that a game like Ultimate Marvel 3 had, but at the same time, I was asking them, like, this really feels like this Capcom game, or this really feels like this game that I played a long time ago, and they were like, yeah, we used a lot of examples of how, like, Street Fighter 4 handled backdashes. Like, you have a little bit of invincibility on backdashes, and we like that from Guilty Gear and Street Fighter 4, so we wanted to put that into the game. I'm like, huh, so you guys really have this history with fighting games? And they're like, yeah, no, we absolutely love fighting games. And that's like the thing I was getting from the impression of the developers. And a lot of guys at Double Helix don't really have a track record with fighting games at all. And I have not played a single Double Helix game besides one, and it was the Devil May Cry HD Collection, which was pretty good, but it was a port of a game. And the track record for the company isn't that great, and this kind of sets a bar from what I played that was unexpected. I was excited for KI, but I was skeptical. You know, skeptical that Rare is not making the game, and a lot of people were as well. And I can hardly blame you. Like, the game is coming out on a system that is pretty anti-consumer, is doing a lot of ridiculous things with video games, so I stick by my motto. I follow games, not consoles, so I'm adamant about getting out there and trying the game as soon as possible. And after it was over, I left with nothing but I just want to play more. Like I just don't give me anything else. Don't talk to me about any Xbox Live BS. I just want to jump back into the game. I just want to play more. And I got that really bad when after I left the tournament, or not even the tournament, just the playtest. And so many people after they played the game came in skeptical, because I was talking to a lot of folks online, and there were some fighting game players there like Deus Ex and a bunch of other dudes that had drove a really big distance, and they came and they had liked KI a lot from the past, and they're like, dude, I don't know about this game, when they were talking about it before they had played. And then once we got past this huge line, and they actually put their hands on the game, and they started getting a couple of wins and figuring out how the game feels and plays. Like I said, it doesn't feel exactly like Street Fighter 4. It feels like it takes so many things from other fighting games and Killer Instinct, which not many fighting games took stuff from Killer Instinct because it had accessible combos that didn't require ridiculous execution to pull off. It just required timing. And it does that. It's really weird to feel like I'm trying to find something I really disliked about the gameplay mechanics, and I can't really find something other than the fact that a lot of stuff feels safe. A lot of moves, if you don't do the heavy version of specials, feel safe, so it's like you're kind of throwing in attacks like crazy all the time. There's a crazy thing in the game where it seemed like if you threw a fireball, if you threw the fireball at a dude, that fireball on block gave you 25% freaking meter. So the person doesn't want to block fireballs anymore. You can't sit at the opposite end of the screen and just eat fireball chip damage. You have to start avoiding this stuff and getting in on the guy. And quite literally, in combos, once you do your combo, you got your auto doubles, you got your linkers, and all this stuff. Auto doubles are no longer bound between this like specific X motion. Like you jump in with a linker, and then you got to go to like light punch, or you got to go to like heavy. No, that's gone. All the buttons are auto doubles now. You can use whatever you want as an auto double, and it's got its own unique animation. What's crazy about this, and this is what I really like about the breaker system in this game, and what I disliked about the breaker system in previous games, combo breakers in this game are light punch and light kick, medium punch and medium kick, and heavy punch and heavy kick. This is this way because in the auto doubles, which is the only stuff that you can actually break in KI3 or KI, you could break the auto doubles appropriate to the breaker. So if a person is doing the heavy auto double, which does the most damage, you press the heavy punch and heavy kick at the same time, combo breaker. But they have the option of doing 3 different types of doubles, the lights, the mediums, and the heavies. So you can break either one of them, so you have a rock, paper, scissors thing going there. What I like about that is in previous KIs, it feels like you were at a 50% chance to break a combo, which bugged me because it gave the person who was eating damage a chance to break it half as much as you had. I feel like that if you landed the hit, you should be rewarded for it, and you should probably get a better chance of having your combo not broken than broken. And in KI3, I'm just going to call it KI3 because I like saying that. In KI3, you get a 33% chance because it's one of 3 options, which seems really fun. And there's this thing where if somebody screws up and they get the wrong breaker, this giant X comes over their head, and that's called, the guy screams, "Lockout!" And it's like ridiculously hyped because at that point you realize I no longer am forced to do the light or medium auto doubles, which do light damage, medium damage, and then you have the heavies that do heavy damage. At that point, while the person is locked out for what seemed to be about 3 like real-time seconds, if they're locked out, you can do whatever you want. You can just whip into them as much as you possibly want, but as soon as they're out of lockout, they can try to break again. So you get a chance to break, and then you get another chance to break later if they choose to keep going. The thing is, the real damage in Killer Instinct comes from enders. And enders have, it seemed like I was doing one ender, and it would have a different animation each time. So I'm thinking like similar to kind of like KI2, you have stage 1, 2, and 3 enders, where your ender is like super damaging, or your ender is like just normal, and then you have a medium damaging one, and then you have one that seems to last a really long freaking time. And they seem to have a varying difference, not because I was doing a different motion. This was literally the same motion each time, and it just went longer and longer and longer sometimes, because the combo I was doing was longer. The combo I was doing had like multiple linkers, multiple doubles, and it was just ridiculously long, and then I threw an ender in, and that final ender at the end of a long combo was just like ripping into his ass, and I'm like, holy crap, this is insanely different than what I was doing before. And it's because the combo before was longer. You think that's how it works? This stuff is all like what they're showing is literally pre-alpha, and it's amazing that the game's in a pre-alpha state and it's this playable. Like, it actually is functioning really well. And for anybody that has issues with the game, I'd actually argue that you check this out before you argue against it, because they're actually going to have playtests outside of E3. They want more people to get their hands on the game, so literally they're taking this arcade cabinet, and they were telling me it's at a bar in the LA area around E3 called Stella's, and you can literally go to a bar, drink beers, and play KI. Like, I was about to seriously consider rearranging appointments so I could do this on the day of, because I was having so much fun just sitting in an arcade type environment with people around, like hovering around the game, just talking and screaming about all the crazy shit that was happening. When somebody figured out an Ultra, the whole room just blew the up. I hadn't felt that in a Killer Instinct game in a really long time, because it's been a really long time. So let me try to think of anything else I can talk about right now that I would really like to cover between the footage I've shown and the things that I've covered. We talked about breakers, we talked about how auto doubles work, we talked about how linkers are kind of any special move as well. Linkers are no longer bound by one specific or a couple of specific special moves, or they're not really crazy motions, they're just your special moves. The majority of your special moves seem to work like Jago's Endokyukin isn't a linker, it's an ender. So you want to use it as an ender. There was also EX moves, or they were calling them supers, and this is very similar to KI2 supers. That's pretty much how they work. They're just really damaging special moves that repeat a motion over and over, and there's a shadow behind your character. I think they were just calling them shadow moves as well. I don't know. The game's very early right now, and they're taking a lot of feedback. That's what I kind of liked about it. Like I was saying, Double Helix is a company that doesn't have a history of fighting games at all, but it seems like they really understand how fighting games work, because some of the stuff in the game just felt really good. Like, it felt almost too good that I was expecting for this game to turn out, and I was expecting it to be kind of clunky, like KI 1 and 2 kind of are. Like, you go back and you play those games now, and I can take my nostalgia goggles off and be like, I liked a lot of things about KI back in the day, but nowadays, I like the cast of characters, I love the music, I like doing some of the combos, they are fun to do, but holy crap, the rest of the game is clunk fest. It is a ridiculous clunk fest. But I still get a nostalgic joy out of it, so that's why I really like the old KIs. Not as much KI2, but they definitely said that a lot of their inspiration for this game wasn't as much KI2. They took a couple of things they liked about it, because they literally, like, Rare threw in the kitchen sink when it came into KI2 as far as mechanics. Like, there was just so much stuff in that game. Almost too much, which is why it kind of fell off for a lot of people. But some people really like KI2. And this game seems to be more taking towards KI1 as far as the style. It's just, people kept asking me, what do you think about it? And I'm like, it's Killer Instinct, but it's fun. Like, everything about it is fun. Like, doing combos is ridiculously satisfying. Oh, okay, so there's something else. Characters have specific combo traits. Like, you literally have, Jago can do something very specific about his combos that Saberwolf can't, and those are the only two playable characters to start. Saberwolf could, like, mash buttons. Like, you can literally mash on heavy and just bite into a guy's dick, like, 10 times over. And you can just keep repeating it, and then it ends after a little while. It isn't ridiculously damaging, but it does resemble kind of old Ultras, because it just repeats the same move over and over again, and it's just you mashing one button. The thing is, for anybody that's knowledgeable with the game, you're like, oh, you're repeatedly pressing heavy kick on me. I will just break the shit out of that by pressing heavy punch and heavy kick. And if you do a combo breaker, you get half your bar. You're rewarded with a ridiculous amount of meter. Oh god, and there's the other thing. You have a spirit gauge, or whatever they call it. It was like this thing around your character's, like, logo in the top left part of the screen, and this logo, I think they called it Instinct. It's Instinct mode. So, anyway, this thing doesn't just give you regular super bar, which you use for your super moves and EXs and stuff like that. You get this Instinct gauge, and this Instinct gauge is like, it's like the single character trait. Besides the combo trait, you have actually two different traits. Jago, for example, like, summons the tiger spirit, and his tattoos glow and shit, and his eyes glow, and he goes, "Brah!" And every time he hits a guy, there's these huge claw marks that go across the character. And I was asking him, what is exactly happening when this happens? Because I didn't see any crazy things. He's like, his health is slightly increasing, not by much. You slightly increase health for a little while, and your hits do slightly more damage and a little bit more hit stun. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So some combos might actually be possible in instinct mode with Jago that not, and they're like, they probably would be. And they didn't want to break anything immediately because people were figuring things out with the game. With Saberwolf, he screams and howls into the air all of a sudden, and his arm starts glowing this crazy like magic color, which is probably why Saberwolf has his arms back. And he doesn't have robot arms, as you possibly noticed, so it looks like they're like magic infused for anyone that cares about the story of KI. So that's how he probably got his arm back. So they're like arms back, they're like magically infused, and he screams and he goes nuts, and he starts glowing, and a lot of his hits, he seemed to increase in speed, and he also seems to do a lot more stun as well, so it looks like he got a speed increase. What's crazy about it is that it gives you a, I think it's only usable once in each round, it gives you a one-time cancel. It's not a breaker, but it's like kind of like an X Factor cancel, but without the X Factor BS. It lets you stop everything you're doing. So if you're in the middle of a big combo, and actually I think Deus Ex ended up pulling this off, he did a big ass combo, got the Ultra to start, and as he got the Ultra to start, he was halfway in the Ultra, he hit Instinct mode, and the guy's dead already. Instinct kicks in, he stops, he starts going into his combo again, so this is like ultimate humiliation, and he missed the Ultra, but the guys were explaining afterwards, I'm like, could he have done Ultra again? He's like, yeah, he could have. So we were like, holy shit, you can actually double Ultra somebody at the end of a round for like ridiculous humiliation if you're really into doing something like that. They didn't mention anything about like finishing moves, like the fatalities. I think they called them danger moves in previous KI. They didn't mention anything about that. I couldn't get a word out of them about it. Humiliations, they didn't mention anything about it either. The entire tone of the game seemed to be a bit more dark than previous KIs, which were very tongue-in-cheek. Like Tusk screaming out and a giant serpent comes from the sky and bites the half body off of you and then goes into the air. I don't think that'll be in the game anymore. It seems to be a much different tone. And one thing I did want to say when you look at it visually in person, the trailer like lacked color. Like there was like it was like devoid of color, and it was kind of like next gen brown in like a brown filter or a gray filter, and the game didn't look like that at all. It was bright as hell. And the thing you didn't see in the trailer, which kind of bugged me, I'm like, why the hell did the trailer kind of suck? The lighting effects are insane. Like, I was confusing the game at first when you see the trailer for like, this could be a 360 game. I mean, besides the cool spark things that are happening, which are kind of physics-based, it could be a 360 game. But when you actually see it in person and it's running in 60 frames in front of you, it's like, holy crap, the entire environment has this insane amount of detail and light, and everything reflects and refracts off of each other. It's pretty crazy. It got really pretty to look at, and a lot of people were just like, this game's gorgeous. The character designs are a lot different than what you're used to, but I think I already talked about that. I don't want to try to repeat stuff. I'm going to try to get at least what I can concisely right now before I play a lot more tomorrow, but this is my first impression. I think if I could take away one thing that I took away from playing the game for the first time, or for an extended period of time, is the fact that it's Killer Instinct, but it's a lot more fun. And it's taken things from fighting games that did right in other fighting games and applied them. And I was trying to find stuff, and I'll probably find some stuff to gripe about. I think a lot of moves feeling like they were safe might be a little weird, but it seems to make the game very offensive-oriented. Pokes. The game actually has pokes. Like, KI before didn't have pokes. This game actually has a legit poking game. It doesn't have links and stuff like that. It has linkers, which are like old KI. But you literally could sit there and, like, you know, standing medium and, like, zone people out. And as soon as you zone somebody out, you just get into your full combo. However, zoning comes with a risk, because if you end up being too defensive in your zoning, you're giving the guy a ridiculous amount of meter. Oh, and throws are third strike. They like the style of third strike and Street Fighter throws. And one of the guys was an avid third strike player that was a developer, and he's like, I love third strike throwing, and the way they've adopted it in Street Fighter 4, and this is it. It's light punch and medium, light punch and light kick. So, the throws looked cool. Oh, the ultras. How did I forget? So when you do an ultra in this game, your character goes into an ultra state, and there's this huge ding. And Jago, for example, they're on this big Tibetan temple, and the background is always moving kind of when the fight's going on, and it's slowly falling apart as the fight progresses. And in the background there's this huge, gigantic Tibetan, like, bell. So you're on top of this temple, and the thing slowly moves more and more, and it's like falling apart. If you do the ultra, which doesn't happen if the match normally ends, if you do an ultra, the music changes suddenly, and I noticed that the music started dynamically going with each button press, or not even button press, each move that Jago did. So when Jago does this full gigantic animation full of kicks and endo-kyukins and all this crazy wind kick stuff, and he goes into this giant uppercut in the end, the music was like dun 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 dun, and it actually went with it. And the guy screamed Ultra Combo, and the way the guy screamed Ultra Combo was way different than the video as well. It was like insanely more hype than it was in the trailer. I don't, like I said, I don't know what the hell was going on with the trailer. I was noticing a lot of differences between what I saw earlier and what I was actually playing. And when that guy when it was Dios, when Dios let that Ultra rip, it was just, the crowd went freaking nuts because the stage falls apart. This now Tibetan temple is in shambles, and this giant bell that was sitting on top literally fell from the sky, was falling really slow because it was far in the background, and the giant like rope followed it down really quick, and it's just wah, and then Jago did his pose and supreme victory. I was like, I got pretty excited at that point. I was like, and then I started asking the developers a little bit of questions before we had to leave, and I'm actually going to do some developer interviews with the guys at E3, and I was like, it looks like you guys really understood what made old KI kind of good. Like, it was exciting. Like, old KI had this pizzazz to it because it was built in an arcade, and it was built to be pulled in by an arcade-style audience. So what happens now is that you have this game that is no longer built for arcade audiences, but they take a lot of the old stuff that brought you in. Like in old KI, there was a reason that Fulgor's giant guns that he pulled out for his fatality had such a bigger sound boost than anything else in the game. It was quite literally because you were sitting in the arcade, and this is why it happened, because it happened to me, doing other stuff, and I hear these guns going off, and I hear this woman screaming, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? I turned around, being the 12-year-old kid myself, and I see Fulgor, this giant robot, his head turned into a machine gun, blasting away another character. And it brought my attention to the game, and that was the exact goal, and I think Rare even said that at some point in the old design of the game. We wanted to make this game appealing to an arcade audience to get you to play the game. We made that thing loud because we wanted you to notice it. And there's things in this game that kind of like appeal to that same fashion, which is, dude, I'm almost halfway thinking they might actually make an arcade release of KI. I'm gonna find out. There's a chance they might make a select amount of cabinets for Killer Instinct, which would blow my freaking mind if they actually made like 100 cabinets of Killer Instinct and gave them to select arcades throughout the US. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff. I'm sorry. I'm very excited about it. I'm also very exhausted. I spent an hour after talking to all these guys that were playing the game about all these different things you can do mid-combo to get like resets, how the best ways are to get damage, how like the characters looked and how they moved, and you know what I like about it? It's been a long time since I've been really excited for a fighting game. Like really excited, like felt this way. I didn't feel this way when Marvel came out. Marvel was kind of like a slow burn for me, and I really ended up enjoying it over time. And the last time I really felt excited about a fighting game was Street Fighter 4. And being excited that Street Fighter is coming back. It's something that's been gone for a long time that we've all wanted so much. And when that thing showed up in Super Arcade, that was amazing. To be surrounded by all of these dudes around you, just watching you play, trying to figure out every little detail they can about Street Fighter 4 when it first came out. And that was when I loved the game the most. And it was an amazing experience. I will never forget it. And what I like that Double Helix did is that they spent all this money to build this arcade machine, literally, to let people play the game outside of E3. And they're like, we're going to bring this thing to as many locations as we can to get people to play test the game. And you can even do so. So like I said earlier, if you guys didn't catch it, you can go play KI3, even if you're not going to E3. Tomorrow, around LA Convention Center at a place called Stella's, is what I heard. It's a bar. So sadly, you gotta be over 21 if you want to go. Ain't no little kids. But yeah, I think my excitement kind of translates to, I haven't felt excited to play a fighting game like this in Street Fighter 4, so it's something unique. Although I do want to find out more, because there's been some really big news that happened recently that I didn't even know about until I came here, that I think they're going to be talking about quite a bit of the show, because they had a crap showing at the Microsoft press conference, and it's that Killer Instinct is going to be a free-to-play game. stay tuned, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed or liked any of this information, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up. And also realize that any of the stuff I'm talking to you right now is from a pre-alpha build of the game and could possibly change in the future. So, yeah, let me know what you think about KI as far as it's shaping up to be. Let me know if you've actually played it, if you had a chance to be one of the rare few that did get a chance, because there was quite a few smiles and quite a few laughs as they left the machine, and it was very much a positive experience for everybody. Like, anybody I talked to was like, yo, dude, KI is back. And that's something I never thought I'd heard before. I never thought I'd ever hear again. So stay tuned, guys. I'll be back tomorrow with more E3 coverage, a bunch of different stuff on fighting games, and if there's more fighting games than just KI at E3, let's go, son, and play some video games. My name is Max. I'll see you tomorrow.